Have you ever felt strangely exhausted, like you're carrying a weight that doesn't belong to you? Something deep and invisible you can't quite describe? You wake up feeling drained, not from your job, relationships, or daily responsibilities, but from something heavier, older, hidden beneath the surface of your life. No matter how many changes you make, you find yourself repeating the same mistakes, stuck in patterns of pain and disappointment, wondering why the cycle never breaks. What if that heaviness isn't even yours? What if you're unconsciously carrying emotional debts passed down through generations before you? Stories of pain, unresolved wounds, struggles never openly faced, now silently shaping your choices, relationships, and identity? Maybe you're not trapped because of your own decisions, but because of a legacy quietly passed on to you without your consent. Carl Jung shared a powerful truth. The deepest pains we carry aren't always our own. Sometimes they're echoes of stories we never lived, silent inheritances we absorbed unknowingly from our families, communities, and past generations. These unseen emotional burdens, these karmic debts, keep us locked in cycles we desperately wish to escape. Ask yourself honestly right now, how many burdens have you carried that were never yours to begin with? How many relationships, careers, or dreams have you lost because you unknowingly repeated patterns rooted in someone else's past? Are you ready to finally let go of what's not yours, to release these invisible chains that hold you back? Maybe it's time to face the truth you've always felt deep inside, but never fully understood. The weight you carry might not even belong to you. Perhaps the key to your freedom lies not in changing who you are, but in finally recognizing and releasing the invisible debt that's been silently running your life. There are hidden memories inside you, invisible stories you never consciously experienced, yet silently carry within. Imagine walking through life dragging a heavy suitcase you've never opened, filled with pain, loss, fears, and unresolved wounds passed down through generations before you. You never chose to carry it, yet its weight influences every step you take, every decision you make, and every relationship you enter. These unseen stories, these unconscious burdens, quietly shape your actions, locking you into emotional patterns you can't seem to escape. Think about the times you've argued with someone you deeply care about, and halfway through, you realize you've had this exact argument before. Not with this person, but with someone else in another relationship. Different faces, same pain. Why do certain wounds repeat themselves in your life despite your best efforts to change? Why does it feel as though you're trapped in a script someone else wrote long before you came along? Anna spent years unintentionally sabotaging every promising career opportunity that came her way. She had talent, ambition, and all the right tools to succeed. Yet each time a major opportunity arose, she found ways to undermine herself, procrastinating until deadlines passed, ignoring calls, or doubting herself until the opportunity slipped away. She couldn't explain her self-destructive patterns until one quiet afternoon, when she sat listening to her mother share stories she'd never heard before. Her mother confessed how she had silently abandoned dreams she once held deeply. Her grandmother, too, had lived a life of quiet regret, leaving her passions behind. In that moment, Anna felt a deep recognition. Perhaps the career failures she experienced weren't entirely her own. Maybe, unknowingly, she'd been replaying her mother's and grandmother's unresolved pain, unconsciously choosing defeat because it was familiar. Anna suddenly saw herself clearly for the first time. She'd been repeating someone else's unresolved story, believing it was uniquely hers. How many of your choices have you unconsciously made based on someone else's unresolved pain? Which aspects of your life feel familiar yet strangely foreign, as if you've inherited a script you never signed up for? The uncomfortable truth is that many of the decisions you believe you're consciously making are decided long before you become aware of them. Your mind operates much like your phone's algorithm, quietly guiding your choices based on past behavior and patterns, convincing you these choices are uniquely yours. Scientists like Benjamin Libet discovered that your brain actually makes decisions seconds before you're consciously aware of choosing them. If your brain decides before you consciously do, are you truly in control? Or are you unknowingly replaying an old script that's been running quietly in the background of your life? Take a moment to reflect deeply. Who is really controlling your life right now? The conscious you or a hidden force you've never truly faced? Are the dreams you pursue genuinely your own? Or are they borrowed from the expectations you've inherited? Consider your identity, the labels you wear, the beliefs you hold most dear, even your own name. Ask yourself honestly, how many of these things were consciously chosen, and how many were quietly assigned to you? Like an actor who plays the same role for so long that they begin to forget their true self behind the persona, you may have become so attached to the identity you've adopted that you've lost touch with who you genuinely are beneath all those layers. Your social roles, your career titles, your deepest beliefs. All these identities offer comfort, security, and a sense of belonging. Yet at what cost? How much of your true self have you sacrificed to meet expectations and to fit into roles someone else defined for you? Without realizing it, you've placed yourself into boxes shaped by your environment, your family, society, and culture. You've carried these identities for so long that stepping away from them feels unimaginable. But pause for a moment. Imagine waking up tomorrow and suddenly, every role you've ever played, every expectation you've tried to meet, every label you've accepted is stripped away. Who would you be in that moment? What remains of you without these external identities and the invisible burdens you've carried your entire life? Can you even picture yourself clearly, beyond these masks you've unconsciously worn? This isn't merely about redefining yourself. It's about reclaiming the parts of your soul you've unknowingly given away. The heaviness you carry might not belong to you at all. Perhaps it's time to set down that invisible suitcase you've carried far too long, open it gently, and finally look inside. The truth hidden there may surprise you, or it might deeply move you, but either way, it will liberate you. Who might you become once you're no longer carrying the unresolved wounds of generations past? What could your life look like if you stopped unconsciously replaying an old, outdated script and started consciously writing your own? Are you ready right now to let go of the familiar but suffocating roles you've adopted and courageously step into your true self? Free, authentic, and whole for perhaps the first time in your life? Because the truth is, you never needed to carry those invisible burdens, and today, the choice to finally put them down belongs entirely to you. What if the greatest awakening you could ever experience was realizing you're not the thoughts that torment you, not the memories you replay, not even the story you've been living inside for so long? Imagine, just for a moment, your mind as a movie you've been endlessly watching, scene after scene, dialogue after dialogue. You've been so deeply immersed in this drama, laughing, crying, and suffering alongside the main character, that you've forgotten something essential. You are simply watching the story unfold. You're not the character trapped inside it. Think about this carefully. Each morning you wake up and dive right back into your character, taking on the same identity, reliving the same fears, regrets, and frustrations. Assuming these scripts are unquestionably yours, you react to your circumstances instinctively, believing fully in your role. But what if you're mistaken? What if, in truth, you're the observer behind the scenes? The quiet, steady awareness that's always been there, patiently watching your life story unfold. Consider how much of your emotional pain is intensified because you've completely identified yourself with your thoughts and memories. When you're stuck replaying an old betrayal, a painful loss, or a familiar fear, it consumes you because you believe this pain is your identity. But what would happen if, right now, you paused and stepped back for a moment? seeing clearly that these stories are playing across the screen of your mind, but you aren't actually trapped inside them? When you're deeply engrossed in a powerful movie, your heart races, tears flow, your body reacts as though you're truly experiencing what you see. But the moment you realize you're in a theater, just watching, a gentle relief washes over you. You're no longer trapped by the emotional roller coaster unfolding on screen. You're free to witness it without losing yourself completely. Your mind functions in exactly the same way. Your thoughts, your memories, your fears, they're not who you fundamentally are. They're projections playing within your awareness, and you've always had the ability to step back, sit quietly in the audience, and simply observe. Pause right now and let yourself genuinely feel this realization. How much of your suffering comes from believing you're the main character trapped in your life's drama? How different might your experience be if you understood that, at your deepest level, you are not these passing stories, but the silent witness observing them unfold? Consider the roles you've adopted throughout your life: the achiever, the victim, the caretaker, the rebel. These identities have shaped your decisions, relationships, and even your perception of who you are. But these roles aren't fundamentally you. They're scripts handed to you by your family, society, culture, scripts you've unconsciously accepted. Each time you identify completely with a role, you narrow your perception of reality, forgetting the limitless awareness beneath. You've become the character, forgetting the observer watching patiently from the wings. Are you willing right now to pause and step away from the familiar role you've played for years? What might you find if you gently removed the mask of your current identity and stood quietly in the space behind it? Who would you discover there in that quiet, unconditioned presence that observes everything without judgment or attachment? The observer within you, that steady awareness, isn't defined by past mistakes, childhood wounds, or inherited fears. It's free from labels, expectations, and the endless pressures to prove or defend itself. This observer is quiet, still, steady, always watching your life's movie unfold without becoming entangled in its drama. Imagine this inner observer as clear sky, unaffected by the storms of emotion and turmoil that pass through your life. Storms come and go, sometimes violent, sometimes gentle, but the sky itself remains unchanged, always calm and present. Your deepest self, your true identity, is like that sky, always witnessing the clouds of thought, feeling, and memory drift by without ever losing its peace. So ask yourself directly and honestly, are you willing to meet this quiet observer inside yourself? Are you ready to gently let go of the drama you've identified with for so long, stepping into a space of pure observation where you can finally see clearly? It's natural to feel resistance to this idea. You've invested years believing your thoughts, emotions, and identity are absolute truths, and stepping away from them might feel unsettling. But what freedom could you experience if you realized you aren't bound by these temporary roles? What clarity could emerge if you recognized yourself as the silent, steady presence observing everything unfold? Consider deeply now. Who would you be without your familiar script? Who would you become if, even just for a moment, you stepped away from your habitual reactions, your familiar suffering, your endless loops of thought, and simply observed with gentle curiosity? When you finally meet this observer within, something profound shifts. You become free, not by escaping your circumstances, but by no longer identifying completely with them. You witness your life story with compassion, understanding, and clarity, rather than fear, judgment, or resistance. You see the patterns, understand the lessons, and most importantly, recognize that you're no longer trapped by them. Are you willing to take this step today, to sit quietly in the audience of your own mind, watching your story unfold without judgment or attachment? Are you ready, perhaps for the first time, to meet the real you, The silent observer quietly waiting behind the scenes of your life's drama? Maybe the deepest truths about your life aren't found in what you've spent years carefully accumulating: knowledge, beliefs, roles, identities, but rather in what you're finally brave enough to release. Consider this: how many things have you held on to tightly, convinced they define who you are, only to discover they've quietly limited your freedom? The roles you've played, the labels you've accepted, the invisible emotional debts you've inherited, all of these have kept you locked in cycles of pain and repetition. But perhaps now, for the very first time, you're ready to step into a deeper truth. A truth found not in holding on, but in the courageous act of letting go. Sometimes the most powerful transformation begins simply with pausing and quietly observing your life. Without rushing to fix, change, or escape your circumstances, just allow yourself a gentle moment of stillness. Imagine your mind like a turbulent river, carrying countless thoughts, emotions, and memories downstream. You've spent your life swimming frantically against the current, exhausting yourself, trying to control each wave, trying to change the flow. But what if right now you simply stopped struggling, climbed gently onto the riverbank, and quietly observed the water passing by? What truths might reveal themselves in that stillness? In those rare moments of gentle observation, you might finally meet yourself clearly, not as a collection of fears, wounds, or unresolved past stories, but as the quiet observer who has always been silently witnessing everything unfold. This observer within you isn't damaged or incomplete. It doesn't need healing or fixing. It is simply present, whole, calm, and quietly aware. Perhaps true liberation comes not from endlessly analyzing or controlling your thoughts, but from gently stepping back and recognizing you were never trapped by them in the first place. Ask yourself honestly, right now, what would it feel like to release the heavy burden of proving yourself, defending your identity, or constantly fighting to change what's already happened? Can you sense the subtle peace waiting behind your familiar struggles, quietly inviting you into a deeper, truer version of yourself? Today, maybe for the first time, allow yourself to sit quietly with this powerful insight that your identity, your pain, your life story might not be absolute truths, but simply narratives you've carried and replayed out of habit. Imagine how it might feel to gently set down these narratives, to release the invisible suitcase you've carried far too long, and finally step forward unburdened. So now, let me ask you directly, are you willing in this very moment to begin letting go? Are you ready to discover who you might become without your familiar masks, roles, and invisible burdens? The journey toward true self-discovery isn't about learning more. It's about courageously releasing everything you've mistakenly believed defines you. If you've felt your reality hiding a deeper truth, take a moment right now and share a bit of your experience below. Has there been a quiet moment, a gentle awakening, or a subtle realization that's profoundly shifted how you see yourself and your life? Your story might become the starting point for someone else's journey of awakening. Perhaps your quiet moment of truth will inspire another to pause, step away from their familiar narrative, and finally meet the quiet observer who's been patiently waiting behind the scenes. Because in the end, true liberation isn't something you need to earn or achieve. It's simply about gently recognizing the truth of who you already are: quiet, whole, and unconditionally free.